In 1862, a 47-year-old Prussian aristocrat walked into a room full of angry politicians and said something that should have gotten him laughed out of the building. Germany, he told them, would not be united by speeches or majority votes. It would be united by blood and iron. Everyone thought he was insane. 25 years later, he had built the most powerful nation in Europe, broken 3 countries to do it, and then spent the rest of his life trying to stop the war he knew his creation would eventually cause. He failed. And the war that followed his death was World War I. This is the story of the man who redrew the map of Europe like a chess player thinking 20 moves ahead, and then watched his own king's grandson knock the whole board over. Otto von Bismarck was not supposed to be a legend. He was a middling landowner from a family of country nobles, the kind of guy who was expected to manage farms and drink too much and disappear into history like 10,000 other minor aristocrats. He was smart, sarcastic, and by most accounts, a nightmare to be around. He dueled. He drank absurd amounts. He once said the only 2 things that mattered to him were his dogs and his wife, and honestly, the dogs might have come first. But underneath the chaos was one of the sharpest political minds Europe had ever produced. In the 1860s, Germany did not exist, not as a country. It was a patchwork of dozens of small kingdoms and states, loosely tied together, constantly squabbling, and completely overshadowed by 2 much stronger neighbors, Austria to the south and France to the west. Prussia was just one piece of that patchwork. Bismarck's entire life's work was turning that piece into the whole board, and he did it in 3 moves, each one more audacious than the last. Move 1, Denmark. In 1864, Prussia and Austria teamed up to strip 2 border territories away from the Danish crown. It looked like a joint operation between friends. It was actually Bismarck setting a trap. Move 2, Austria. Just 2 years later, Bismarck turned around and picked a fight with the very ally he'd just fought alongside, using the leftover territory from the Danish War as the excuse. The war lasted 7 weeks. Prussia won so fast and so completely that historians still study it as a masterclass in military planning. And here's the part that made Bismarck different from every conqueror before him. He didn't crush Austria. He could have marched into Vienna and humiliated them. Instead, he offered them almost embarrassingly gentle peace terms. Why? Because he didn't want an enemy for life. He wanted a rival he could deal with later, not a country plotting revenge for the next 50 years. That's the whole Bismarck philosophy in one decision. Never make an enemy you don't have to make. Move 3, the big one, France. In 1870, Bismarck maneuvered the French Emperor Napoleon III into declaring war on Prussia, and he did it with something almost embarrassingly simple: a diplomatic telegram. The French ambassador had a slightly tense but polite conversation with the Prussian king about a royal succession dispute. Bismarck got a copy of the telegram describing that conversation, edited it down to make it sound like the king had insulted the French ambassador to his face, and released it to the newspapers. France exploded in outrage. Paris demanded war. Bismarck got exactly what he wanted without firing a single shot to start it. The war that followed was a total disaster for France. Napoleon III was captured. Paris was besieged. And in January of 1871, in the Hall of Mirrors at the Palace of Versailles, inside the conquered heart of France itself, the King of Prussia was crowned emperor of a brand new country, the German Empire. Bismarck had done what centuries of German princes had failed to do. He'd built a nation out of a patchwork, using 2 wars, 1 edited telegram, and a level of long-term thinking most politicians today still can't manage over a single election cycle. But here's where the story turns, and where it becomes a warning instead of just a victory lap. Bismarck understood something that almost nobody around him understood, that building a powerful new country in the middle of Europe was dangerous. Not because Germany was weak, because Germany was suddenly strong, and everyone else was scared of it. France wanted revenge for 1871. Russia and Austria-Hungary were nervous rivals. Britain watched anxiously from across the water. Bismarck spent the next 20 years doing something almost nobody remembers him for, because it's less dramatic than wars. He built an insurance policy made of paper. Alliances, treaties, secret agreements, deliberately confusing arrangements designed to make sure that no matter what happened, Germany would never have to fight 2 major powers at once. He kept France isolated. He kept Russia and Austria-Hungary from turning against Berlin. He personally held the entire balance of European power together in his head, like a man juggling knives while walking a tightrope, for 2 decades without dropping a single one. Then, in 1888, the old Kaiser died. His grandson, Wilhelm II, took the throne. Wilhelm was young, insecure, obsessed with military glory, and deeply annoyed that this cranky 75-year-old chancellor kept treating him like a child who needed supervision. In 1890, Wilhelm forced Bismarck out, fired the man who built the country, and almost immediately, the alliance system Bismarck had spent 20 years constructing started to unravel. Wilhelm let the treaty with Russia lapse. Russia, suddenly isolated, went and allied with France instead, the exact nightmare scenario Bismarck had spent his entire career preventing. Germany started acting like the aggressive, threatening power everyone had feared it would become. 24 years after Bismarck's death, that unraveling alliance system finally snapped completely, and Europe fell into the First World War, a war that killed around 17 million people and reshaped the entire 20th century. Bismarck built Germany with terrifying precision, and then he spent his final decades trying to make sure that power didn't destroy the continent around it. He succeeded for as long as he was in the room. The moment he wasn't, the system he'd built like a watchmaker started falling apart, gear by gear, until the whole machine finally broke in 1914. That's the real Bismarck story. Not just a man who won wars, a man who understood that winning is easy, and that the far harder, far less glamorous task is figuring out what to do with power once you actually have it. Most leaders in history never even ask that question. Bismarck asked it every single day for 20 years, and the tragedy is that the one thing he couldn't control was who came after him.